in crafting policies that promote inclusive access to finance by women, and financial institutions themselves also need to have a better reach to the women borrowing segment of their business. This will happen by identifying clearly business opportunities to establish gender business lines, primarily dedicated to the underserved segment of women, following best international practices in gender-focused and gender-focused innovative products. And there's so much research in this space. There's many organizations around the world, including IFC, that are providing direct support to banks and financial institutions around the globe to better understand and better fathom this sector of women, and what kind of products can you basically develop for them, and how can you encourage them and promote them to take advantage of these financial products. I would like to highlight one of these innovative products that we have just very recently rolled out in my region in Central America. And we basically noticed, as I mentioned earlier, that despite having very positive characteristics as banking clients, women-owned businesses, they don't have access to loans. And that came out to us mostly from a reason that is related to their lack of access to real estate collateral that financial institutions often require and want to see before they can extend that loan to, let's say, a woman entrepreneur, for instance. If we take the case of Panama, which is Latin America's fastest growing economy prior to COVID-19, obviously, we found out that only 7% of adult women in the country have a housing loan, and only 7% of women-owned businesses have funding from financial institutions. So as a result, Panama's gender gap is much higher than the average of Latin America and that of the Caribbean, despite, again, being the fastest growing economy. That didn't make any sense. We also have an internal report, an IFC report on women's access to home ownership that we managed a series of surveys globally to get to that report. It's called Her Home, Housing Finance for Women. You're welcome to look at it on our website. And we found that home ownership is not only critical, obviously, to improve living conditions, but it's also extremely important to accessing formal credit and establishing a credit history over time. So the study also found out that gender asset gaps in property possession undermine women's ability to engage in economic activity. And it revealed that there is a large unmet demand for housing finance for women-headed households, particularly in developing markets. So what we did to solve this, and in the particular case of Panama, is we partnered with one of the leading banks in the country via a 17 million investment from our side, the side of IFC. There was also a 20 million investment parallel loan from Citibank. And we all partnered with the local bank in Panama to deliver our first investment focused on housing for women globally. This it's really a first. I'm very proud of this one, and hopefully we can roll more of these products globally. And the idea behind this investment is that we want to increase the bank. It's called Global Bank, one of the leading banks in the country. We want to increase the portfolio of mortgages for women, especially for low to middle income households headed by women. And part of the package is also directly aimed at funding women-owned small and medium enterprises. The idea also is that we want to break that vicious circle of a lack of access to finance by helping women, especially those in low and middle income households, to access their first mortgage loan, which obviously will help them get the next loan and so on. And at the same time, improve their credit history and loan eligibility going forward. So, I mean, just to wrap up, I just wanted to highlight one of the products which I think is innovative, and it's the way to go, not only for financial institutions in different markets, but also for development financing institutions such as IFC and the World Bank, and also for regulators to look at these and say, look, we have this huge gender financial gap. We have this huge unmet potential of women entrepreneurs that we can help and we can push forward, and we can really empower them so they can help us reduce that growth gap that we're having, especially now within the current sanitary crisis. Then what kind of policy should we be pushing in place, and what kind of products should we be encouraging so that we can, again, lower the gender gap and promote more inclusive growth going forward. Thank you so much, Maria, Fernanda.
Thank you, Sanaa. You've been so clear and with so many inputs. I mean, I couldn't take notes of everything you were saying. Congratulations. Now I would like to introduce the next panelist, Taryn Andersen. She's the CEO and co-founder of Impulse for Women, an international non-profit organization that connects female-led tech startups with, with the social impact uh, with investors. So she's the bridge where connecting great projects with investors. So Taryn from Barcelona as well, please, your 10 minutes.
Thank you very much, María Fernanda, and it's amazing to share a panel with such a high level of panelists and speakers. Thank you very much. Well, my purpose came because I'm a venture capital since 2016, and they offered me to become a general partner, GP, from the venture capital that we're getting money from Spain, and we invest in the United States and Canada since 2008. Then when they offered me to become a GP, I was telling my friends, and most of them, they were like, Taryn, there's only 4 females in the whole Spain that they are GPs of a venture capital. And I was like, I can't believe that. I'm coming from the private banking sector. And it was like, it was a male dominated sector. And I didn't understood why females were not much more entrepreneurs, and what was the problem with the relationship between the females and the investors. And besides, why it was so difficult for the investors to find them, especially when we got in matter of data, they're much more successful in the long term, the females startups, than the male startups. So we started to build up Impulse for Women, where we are covering female tech entrepreneurs and also all those social impact projects, regardless gender, with investors. We cover since the beginning until the exit, depending on the maturity, economic needs, sector, allocation. We put them in contact with the correct investor. As we are a non-profit organization, it's for free. There's no charge for startups to being part of Impulse for Women. And we started in Spain. We jumped to Europe very quickly because it wasn't enough content for us to make a matchmaking with investors. And our third step was going to be United States and Canada. But they started to come females from South Africa, from South America, from Asia. And we started to say, okay, what are we going to do now? How we can grow, how we can cover them, and without spending enough energy in that point. So we started to close agreements with the United Nations World Tourism Organization, with the ITU Telecom, with the United Nations Women, GSMA, Mobile World Capital, in the private and sector international institutions. So they were connecting us, and we were helping them as a third party to create events. At the beginning, they were all of them offline. Right now, since COVID, we started to grow in an online way. We started to offer them to our female lead tech startups and also all those social impact projects, the possibility to have mentorships from Impulse for Women with our investors. So in one way or another we were also not only mentoring, we were also funding investment for those females lead tech startups. And in a nicely way, I want to push all those females to become entrepreneurs. You got the ecosystem, you just have to find out who are helping you. And as Sanaa said before, there's a lot of organizations that they're supporting us. And it's just go over and try to follow on. And by the other side, we are also helping to all those females that they would like to become investors. It's not difficult. There's a lot of organization only for female in all the places of the world. We can connect you with them, and you can see and analyze which one will be the best one with your mindset and the way that you would like to invest. You can learn how to do it, and it's not difficult and it's not expensive. I mean, we need all those females to come over and to break up all the role models that we are right now as an investors. Besides, I want to give you an concept. As a venture capital, the first thing that we're doing is to analyze a business model. The second one is how you make profits. And the third step is the team. We're not looking for gender. When you have 1,500 startups per year to analyze, you're not looking if it's a female or a male. So go ahead, check over all the investors that will be the correct one for you, depending of your maturity, and go for it. Build your networking with them and start to grow. That is going to be as difficult as for a male to arrive to get invested. It's just the way that you interact, and we are there for support you. If you need anything, we're here. Thank you, María Fernanda, and it's a pleasure to be again with you.
I know, and we will have some questions afterwards, so stay there, please. Now I will present our next speaker. He's a very good friend of mine and really enjoy sharing trips, events, and a lot of amazing adventures with him, Winslow Sargeant. He's the head of capital markets, Genesis LLC, and he's also supported investment for early stage ventures. But in the ICSB, he's the incoming chair. So we are waiting for you to start over your your period, but you know the COVID didn't let us you start. So please, this is your floor for you.
Buenos dias, and thank you for that introduction. It's a pleasure to be here, and especially in the company of such distinguished leaders. With regard to access to capital, we know in terms of entrepreneurship that the #1 challenge that small businesses have, men and women have, is access to capital. But in particular, the challenge that access to capital brings is it's a much harder barrier for women. And as Sanaa outlined in terms of what is at stake, for us to really achieve what we need to achieve, we need to really address the fact that the lack of capital holds back the world economy. There was a recent study by McKinsey that projects that in a full potential scenario in which women participate in the economy identically to men, $28 trillion US, 28 trillion, which is an additional 26% to the world's GDP, would be added. So just think that if we are able to provide access to women and to the ideas, and that would help across the board, but it would add to the global economy. And so that's something that we need to address, that it's not only good policy, it's good for the world. Now, what are some of the things that are holding back women in terms of access to capital? One, networks. What we see, there was a study that I conducted when I was the chief counsel for advocacy at the U.S. Small Business Administration. We saw that the #1 challenge that women have are access to networks. And as a man, and that's why we believe that men have a role to play as an ally, as to work with women and to make sure that these networks aren't just only for men, but we need to include women. We need to allow women to lead within these networks to get access to capital. What I see on a daily basis as head of capital markets for Genesis, when we consider how we're going to structure access to capital, we tend to look at it from a man's point of view. We need to have more women at the table so that when these deals are put together, there is a consideration in terms of the uniqueness that women provide. And there's some industry as well that women tend to dominate. There are a few numbers that I can throw out, that within the US, there are roughly 30 million small businesses, out of which there are roughly 5 million of those are led by women. The challenge with that is that out of the 5 million that are led by women, 90% of those do not have any employees. So only 10% have employees. And so when it comes to access to capital, those aren't growth businesses. And so when a woman leader, a founder wants to seek capital, then the banker might say, well, your business is too small, it's not a growing business. And so therefore, it's hard to get access to capital. And so then you have to go to family and friends or networks that may have to look at other criteria. So one of the things we have to do is to address what are some of the areas or what are some of the businesses that are growth businesses and that women are involved in and are leading, so that we can create an environment so those businesses to grow. There are many home-based businesses that are lifestyle businesses that have the opportunity to grow, but the model may not work with some financial institutions. But we are seeing a change, though. We are seeing a change in terms of that outline. There are some organizations that are out there right now that see the benefit for these home-based businesses in light of COVID-19. We're seeing more of these businesses that at one point were looked down upon because they were based at home. Now there are more businesses that are at home, but also that you can have a growth business. And so these are some of the opportunities that I would encourage women and those who want to support access to capital that we can look at to make sure that those are growth businesses, especially in technology. There's a huge opportunity. There's a huge need to provide access to product, to provide access to services, and so that's an area that I believe that should be a focus. Another point that we really need to address is the fact that when we think of growth, when we think of access to capital, venture capital has put these arbitrary limits in terms of what they can do or what stage they can play in, and so therefore there is a section of access to capital called the angel section. There are those who may not be the institution in terms of venture capital, but there are groups called a group of angels. And these angels can come in at an earlier level. They have an interest in terms of not only the person, but also they may have a special talent or expertise in a particular area. These are investors who really roll up their sleeves and get really into the business to help the business grow. And so this is another area. Once again, it's a matter of accessing these networks. And so what we can do, I believe that ICSB can work with you to identify these groups, these angel groups in various regions, in various countries, who can fill that void, who can give that early access to capital for those businesses that need capital to grow. We like to say that it takes money to make money, and therefore that's why capital is so important. And so I want to make sure that as ICSB, we create a forum, we create an environment that is nurturing, that is healthy, so that all women can find the resources that you need, and so that we can work together to build your business. I look forward to having a fruitful discussion. And I also want to know how we can be engaged, because men, like I said, we have a role to play. We have kept women out for so long. Now it's our turn to make sure that those barriers, that those walls are removed so that women can be at their best. And so I look forward to talking with you and learning more. Thank you.
Thank you, Winslow. Well, and now María Sol Bertlshofer. I will never pronounce it, so sorry, María. She's from Argentina. She's the principal at Jaguar Ventures, a Latin American venture capital firm focused on early stage interest ventures. But she's also been working in a big corporation, insurance corporation, and then afterwards she worked with an entrepreneur. So she's been living the different sides of the table, right? So I would love to hear her because she's really young and she's doing so many things, and she's very, very great in analyzing teams to invest. So the floor is yours, María Sol.
Thank you, Fernanda. It's a great pleasure to be here. And well, as Fernanda said, I'm currently working at Jaguar Ventures, a venture capital firm that invests in Latin America. We have offices in Mexico City and Buenos Aires, but we invest all across the region. Well, as she says, previously I have been working, yes, in the corporate world, but then I discovered that that wasn't my place where I would like to work. So I was interested in entrepreneurship and venture capital. So I think that 2 or 3 years ago, I started working with an entrepreneur in e-commerce here in Argentina. But then I discovered that what I would like the most is to work at a fund or something related to funding to help also a woman in entrepreneurial women to access to financing, to make their business grow. So it was there when I could start working with Jaguar. And well, here in Jaguar, we invest. We don't have a specific focus in women or on a specific amount of funds to invest in women, but we have most of our team is our team members are women, and then we have, I think that yes, at least half of our portfolio companies have founders, female founders. So, and then I think that we what we'd like to do is to encourage our portfolio companies when they have to hire some new people. We encourage them to make their short list at least with 2 women, so they ensure that every woman have an opportunity to be part of their companies. And also when we analyze the teams, when we are about to invest in a company, we also analyze their values and their way of think, because we think that to hire more women, it's important. It's something related to their culture and to their values. And it's not just a number or a figure to have more women. It is related more to the way they think about it. And also, well, we participate in We Exchange. It's, I don't know if you know it, but it's an initiative from IDB Lab to make women make more visible their companies and to participate in a competition for funding and for financing. So I have recently participated in the competition as a jury. So it's a great opportunity to know a lot of women entrepreneurs and to know more about their business and to know her from the very beginning, because sometimes they are just starting their business, but it is very, very nice to know them from the very, very, very beginning and to know how they are making their business grow and how they are working. So I think I really enjoy this kind of competitions, because it's a great possibility to know more about them. And well, also another thing that we do from Jaguar is to offer like office hours for everybody, but we also encourage women to participate in those office hours, because sometimes we feel that the women don't have the capability to make strong networks, or it's or like they are afraid to be to not be at the stage that we need for investing. So we encourage them to talk to us in that office hours, so we can know them and they can start expanding their networks. So I think that, yeah, that's some of the things we do from Jaguar. And well, yeah, that's all on my part.
Okay, thank you, María Sol. So I would like to ask you, the four of you, because we are talking a lot about teams. So the entrepreneurial teams have to be diverse or just women. What do you think about it? If you find out or you reach to a team that is just women, how do you approach it, or how do you assess it? Sanaa, would you like to tell us something about this?
Thank you, Maria Fernanda. Very happy to answer first. Listen, I mean, diversity works. It has been proven. There's multiple studies on many fronts that looks at diversity in all groups, not only in entrepreneurs. When you look at board members, when you look at senior management team, even when you look at kids in school, diversity works. We don't know how it does exactly so, but it works. It's important. You bring people with different perspectives, from different backgrounds, so it's 100% works, and it's efficient and effective. Sometimes it might take time, but it always does work. I would not put it only on the gender front. So I think diversity on all levels is important. Diversity in clearly in gender, in backgrounds, in education, in age, in experience. All of that brings so much value add to any group. If you were to talk here about women entrepreneurs. So I wouldn't, with that, I wouldn't say that you only want to see women entrepreneurs alone. I would want to see, all genders represented, on in a specific group of women entrepreneurs. And I would also focus not only on gender, but I would focus also on their experience. What are they bringing to the table? What kind of expertise are we talking about? Backgrounds, connections, very important. I mean, people can come in maybe with less experience, but with excellent connections. Abilities to raise fund and bring more resources to the enterprise. This is what you really want to look at when you're looking at a group of entrepreneurs. I wouldn't say women only, I would say more diverse, and not only in terms of gender, but in other parts as well.
Fantastic, Sanaa. Taryn, what do you think? Because you are funding female projects. So what do you think about this?
Well, actually, females and males, we are different mindset. And the way that we interact is completely opposite. So I agree that when they are all of them together, males and females, they go much more farther. For example, females are much more realistic with the budgets. Males are not. You always have to look a little bit less because they are going much more farther. Females would like to have money from the next 3 years and forget about funding. Males, they're not going to do that. They're going to only ask for a 5% of the equity for 100 case, and the next year they will ask for another 500 case. They will give another 5% of the equity for 150 case. But the female, no, she says, okay, I'm going to get a 55% of equity off, and only for 150. So the way that we interact is super different, and it's super good to have a male that is pushing her, like, hey, don't worry, let's gonna go for funding the next year again, and the female at the same time, no, we're not going to go for 3 years, but okay, we will do it only for 2. So next year, we are not going to spend 40% of our time searching for capital. That's one point. And I think that females is always looking for society. There's always going in community, thinking about the other ones and how to help the community. They are much more holistic, looking for a lot, much more things, a little details, than male. Male is very focused on, okay, I want to grow that. They're much more deeper. They get much more farther than what we do. And the combination of both is perfect. And for sure, diversity from different cultures, different barriers, different mindsets, it's super interesting because they make you grow and to understand how to scale up, to grow in different markets, for sure. It's not only a matter of gender, it's a matter of all the differences that we can find. But for sure, if you have to compare separately, for sure, I can support that females are doing very well, but that doesn't mean that the mix is much more farther and much successful in the long term.
It's amazing. So regarding what you both said, and taking into account that women are really social, they would love to be social. I don't understand why Winslow said before that they do not network. Women are really social people, but they do not network. So I would like for you to clear up that, because then María Sol something like that too. So I would love you to explain me a bit more about that.
Well, yes, and yes, and I just want to make it clear. I didn't say that women don't network. I meant to say, and I hope this comes across, is that women have not been given access to important networks. And so women have, especially some of the financial networks and venture capital, women have been left out. And in many times when you're getting access to capital, it's a relationship business. And so unless you're part of those relationships, it's very hard to get access to capital. But just to add to what you are saying in terms of diversity, in terms of what makes for a good team, I just want to add to what Taryn and what Sanaa said. It helps to have a diverse team because with regard to risk averse, what we find, and there were certain studies that I did when I was within government, is that risk averse and the appetite sometimes with men and women can be different. I don't want to make a broad brush in that statement, but I just want to paint an example. When I used to, when I would seek to have to put out, say, an RFP for a quote for someone who was going to apply to do a certain work, at first I would have a list of 10 requirements, right? And so what I saw over time is that women would look to see whether or not they could do all 10 requirements. Men, on the other hand, would, if they could do one, they felt that they could do it and they would apply. And so it seems women, they in large part would read through and make sure that they could do every single one and still may have some doubts. While a man sometimes, if he could do just one, he felt, oh, I got this. I got this contract. And so we saw that it helps to have a mixture of teams so that women, of course, needs to be in the lead, not to be in the background, but they need to be up front leading, but at the same time need to be encouraged that it's okay, that you don't have to be able to do every single, check every single box, just enough that you can do the work and to meet the objective. And so that's why it helps to have those type of teams where that we can learn from each other and see that it's okay to not have everything done, but just enough to get things across the finish line. And that's why it's important to have those type of teams.
Fantastic. So, María Sol, do you agree about that? Certain circles are quite close where the money is, so that's why women are hard to get to it. Not because they cannot network, but because it's hard to get inside those closed circuits, right?
Yeah. Totally agree with Winslow. Yeah, I think that I can see it from my fund that sometimes men are not cautious as women, because I think that the women sometimes wait for to have everything in order, that the company is going great and that they are doing everything perfect just to go to the investors. And men, perhaps they just have an idea and they go to investors to pitch the idea. So I think that sometimes women, we have to go ahead and speak to everyone and tell our ideas, and don't be afraid to share what we think and what we are thinking about our company or about our projects. But yes, also as an investor, I think that it is a hard world for women, because, well, you know very well, Fernanda, that, for example, here in Argentina, we are so many, it's a little amount of women working at investments, at VC funds or accelerators. So it's a very, very small world. So I think that we have to look also for gender equality in the side of investors, just to go then to look for new female entrepreneurs from our side.
Thank you, Maria Sol. Well, we have a question here from Sharok. She's asking, what policies require review in order to continue supporting women? I think it's quite tricky because you all come from different countries, so it's hard to generalize. But do you think that there are certain policies that require review or to be changed or to be reinstated? Whoever feels comfortable with that question.
Well, here in Argentina, we have recently released a law about gender equality in the C-level, I think. But, well, it's a first step, but it has been very controversial, because it's just a number, and I think that it has to be more related to, as I said previously, it has to be with the culture of the companies more than the number of women working in the company. I think that more women have to be sit at every table in every company, and to encourage them to make decisions, to participate in every important decision. But, well, here in Argentina, I think that we have a long way to improve this kind of political policies.
Okay, thank you. And Sanaa, okay, yeah, Winslow.
I would just add that within the U.S., the nature of gender equality is very, very important. As I pointed out, just by having more women participate, that adds to the GDP. And so, with that said, at the Small Business Administration, the U.S. Small Business Administration, with regard to procurement, there's been a carve out since about 5%, and that's the floor of 5% of government contracts are targeted towards women entrepreneurs and women small business owners. That represents more than, well, if the US spends $500 billion a year on contracting, that represents a large number. You're looking at more than $25 billion per year that are dedicated for women. And that's very, very important, because when you think of entrepreneurship and when you think of access to capital, you don't have to start something from scratch and create a new drug or a new widget, but you can be very good at trade and very good at meeting the needs of government agencies or just the counties. And so by having that opportunity, women will now be able to go to banks and use these contracts, use these contracts that they win to monetize them to get access to capital. So that's just one way that governments, in working with private-public partnerships, to really help women get access to capital, but also get access to contracts that they can use to grow their businesses.
Good. Good to hear, because procurement is important, and that's a policy governments can manage. You know, it's not that complex. So I wanted to ask Sanaa about the program in Panama, because you are financing women homes with the local bank, but what's the difference with other programs, or is the same program in other countries? So just in Panama you achieved that deployment.
So let me answer this question, and then I'll go back to the previous question on policies, because I have a few things to add on that one. So this is really the very first project that we have ever done deployed globally in that focuses solely on women entrepreneurs and women basically owned houses. And the difference between this and your typical loans that we give to banks is that all the proceeds of this transaction are going to go 100% to finance women that are coming from low and middle income households. To a big portion of it is towards their first home, basically acquiring that first house. So the mortgages will go to these finance mortgages, low middle income households, where the household head is a woman, basically. And then another portion is going towards SMEs, where the head of the SME is a woman. So 100% of the proceeds, 100% go into women. We've never done anything like this. There's most of the transactions that we do, there are different components to it. Obviously, we're a development institution, so there's a lot of things that we're trying to push forward. Gender is one of those. Financial inclusion doesn't only focus on women. I mean, women is a big component of it, but we also try in general to help push for more financing for SMEs. We're pushing for more financing towards climate smart investments and products, climate smart housing. So there's so many areas that we want to push forward. And usually our investments cover 2 or 3, 4 of these elements. I mean, this one is 100% women and dedicated towards acquiring that first home, obviously, and also helping an SME that is led by a woman, which is something that we have not deployed elsewhere. And I believe I haven't seen other development finance institutions do, but hopefully this is just the start. Within IFC, I know some of my colleagues are trying to replicate the same product in other parts, Brazil and other parts of Latin America, hopefully other parts of emerging markets as well, and hopefully other development institutions will follow. Very briefly on your previous question, what can be done in terms of policies? A lot can be done. I mean, here we're talking about 2 topics, the topic in general of women entrepreneurship and how do we promote more women entrepreneurs. And then obviously you have the topic of the day, which is access to finance. In general, in terms of promoting more women entrepreneurs, there's a lot that can be done in terms of policies that the regulators can put in place, and some of the private sector players can also push forwards in terms of making sure that we have more space in senior management teams for women, more space at the level of boards. There's multiple research that has been done around the globe from very reputable institutions, including the World Bank and IFC, where time and again, we say that, look, when you have more women in senior management positions, in board positions, even in middle management as well, the enterprise performs better, it has better financial performance, better social performance, and the likes. So clearly there's something that can be done in this space. And in terms of the workplace itself, some simple actions as simple as providing childcare for your female employees just can improve things tremendously for women, particularly in their childbearing years, where many of them unfortunately miss that opportunity to kind of grow their careers and move to the next step up, because they have to step back and take care of the kids and the house. And that takes a toll on women. It's a good 10, 15 years of their lives that they can probably never get back if you compare them to a man who usually doesn't have to deal with such elements as childcare. So that's in general. In terms of access to finance, there's again a lot that can be done from a policy perspective. I talked in my intervention earlier about collateral and how that makes it very hard for women to access credit. So putting in place laws that kind of circumvent that and helps them basically access credit faster. We're talking about asset-backed, mortgages and loans, where you don't have to necessarily show a title of a land or a house so that you can access credit. You can use some of your movable assets. We're seeing that deployed in many countries, and it works. It's something that can be pushed forward, but you need the regulation behind it. And that's the role of the regulators, and that's where the policies come into place. And then banks themselves, we should find a space for regulators and policies to encourage the banks that help these underserved segments, be it SMEs, be it women-led businesses, to create that space for them. Because most banks, particularly in a crisis scenario, which is where we've been living now for many months, the easiest thing is to step back and focus on your corporate banking, because those are the big clients, the big fish that you know and you trust. And it's easier to just continue lending them and being careful about who you're deploying money to. But taking that step of looking into SMEs, women, underserved segments should be encouraged by policies. These banks and institutions should be cut some slack and really encouraged in terms of doing more in this space. So there's a lot that can be done in terms of the policy as well.
Amazing. And it's really congratulations about what you're doing in Panama, and I hope many other countries can take advantage of this program. We have another question from Ines. She says, in the last year, among female funders raising capital, what has been the success rate in your organization? And if that applies, how does this compare to men funders? I don't know who would like to. I don't know if you can read it. It's in the chat box.
Well, I would jump in here because I work in the area of government contracting, of securing funding for those who want to buy or sell their companies. I would say that almost half of the companies we have transactions with involve a woman leader or a woman founder, and so it is pretty high. Now these companies are doing well. They generate on average revenues $15 million or more in terms of top line, and they're profitable. But for these businesses, we have been able to, if they're willing to buy or sell, almost half of our transactions have involved women leaders and founders of our companies.
Sorry, I saw you trying to answer, so.
No, because from the venture capital perspective, we already have invested in 5 female lead tech startups. 4 of them are CEOs, and that's from 2008. We are now in our 3rd fund, and all of them, we didn't finish the exit, but they're doing pretty good. Besides, from Impulse for Women, that I have 3,400 female lead tech startups into our platform. We didn't connect investors yet. We're going to do it this month. But I could give you all these ratios. I have to tell you that due to COVID, it has been a kind of mess. Just because at the beginning, we were looking at our portfolio to try to set up all the budgets, all the sectors that we were investing at, and helping all those startups that we were in our portfolio. And you have to realize that depending on the maturity of the fund, we are one part of our fund that we are investing, and another one that we are just making follow-ons. So it's very important to know which stage is the fund at the moment that we are, if we are investing in deal flow, or we are just making follow-ons and raising capital for the next one. Besides that, I can tell you that I know that we wanted to in Europe, because I'm part of the European Commission EIC program. And I know that they wanted to arrive to 35% of female investment. They have been trying to open the quotes to the investment until at 25% at least for females. And they are arriving, but we have to push females as well. So it's a matter of from the institution, the European Commission institution, is pressing females to come in, but females must come also. And sometimes it's a lack of communication and a lack of coming over by themselves, and to know that they have the possibility to apply as well. Thank you.
Great. Oh, there's so many things. I mean, this panel is amazing. I don't know how I'm going to wrap up the report because we're touching so many interesting points. And here, Shirok, she is asking if there is a due diligence process to ensure that support is given is truly entrepreneurial. It's like a reverse due diligence, right? To, as I understand the question, right?
I'll jump in here. I think that due diligence is very, very important, but it goes both ways, right? In terms of from a financier, we do our due diligence and making sure that there's a business opportunity, the founder, they have what is needed to be successful, but also think very, very important that, especially because I've been on the other side having to raise capital, that you seek out those who have a tendency to lend or just to invest, because you don't want to waste your time trying to get access to capital or get funding from someone or from an organization that doesn't have a history or isn't going to lend. And the challenge with venture capital or in private equity, they never say no. They'll create a whole bunch of work for you to do. And so it's very, very important so that when you're seeking capital from an institution, you have to know whether or not they're going to actually lend you money or invest. Because, and I've been guilty of this too, being on the other side, I didn't say no. I just created a whole bunch of work, a whole bunch of tasks that needed to be done. I actually said no. I actually said no, but they didn't hear no. So what I did is I would say, okay, you need more of this, you need more of this, you need more of this. And it just created more work. I have since moved away from doing that because it's not helpful to anyone. So I would say that when you do your due diligence, make sure that the institution or the person that you're talking to will actually, in the end, not just create more work for you, will be a good partner.
Anyway, sometimes entrepreneurial teams are not ready to get the money yet. So maybe those questions or that further work that you're been putting on them are making them go forward. Maybe not with the money, but yes, with the more work that it was still needed to be done. I don't know. It depends on the stage of, it's not an M&A due diligence, right? It depends on the stage the entrepreneurs are or the team is. That's what you mean. But also when you want to put far away the no, because you don't want to say no, so you're just playing for them to get tired and to go away.
Yes. And that's the problem. It is the latter, that there's some VCs, there's some investors who don't have any, they won't say no. They will just create more work for you to do. And so that's why in terms of due diligence, know who is willing to actually be a partner, because that will save you time.
Maria Sol, would you want to add something? I saw your face trying to.
Yeah, because I agree with Winslow with what he said recently, because at Jaguar we are always very, very clear about our due diligence process. We know that every minute it's important for entrepreneurs. So when we know that when we go across all the due diligence process and we realize that it is a no for that moment for the entrepreneurs, we instantly contact the entrepreneurs and said, okay, it's a no because of this or that, and we give an explanation, of course, but we don't want them to lose time, and we don't ask for a lot of information and I don't know, a lot of numbers and figures. We have exactly some questions for them, And we always ask for references, for professional references or something like that. But we are very, very clear about our process, and we have, I think that all our process is about 1 month since we start interviewing the entrepreneurs up to the final decision. But if in the meantime we know that it would be a no, we instantly communicate to the entrepreneurs. So I think that it is one of the most important points. When you are an investor, you have to be very hands-on with the entrepreneurs and know that they are waiting for a response. So you have to be very very honest at the moment that they need.
Okay, we need to finish this panel because the next panel is coming up in 1 minute. But I want to thank you all because it was an amazing session and so many things that when we have to write the report, it's going to be so many points that we approach that I think are really, really important. Thank you a lot again for having the time for this panel. And I would like to introduce Ayman that is going to present the next panel. Are you there, Ayman?
Yes, I am. Maria, this is a fantastic session here. I want to congratulate you on a job well done. This has really been very fascinating. Both the presentations and the questions and answers were really, really well done. So congratulations to you on behalf of ICSB. And as I mentioned, for everybody here, Maria is the godmother of ICSB Academy. So she is well loved and well respected at ICSB, and she looks forward to having you all in Paris next year as we host our conference. And as I mentioned earlier this morning, we keep getting more good news about the vaccines that are coming out. And now it's at 95% efficiency rate. So I think the next one will be at 99.9999%. And it's no longer a shot, it's just a pill. You just take a pill, drink some water, and we're off to go, and life will be back to better than ever here. With that, I want to start this session here and to congratulate everybody here. But the session is very important. The title of the session is Resiliency and Confidence. And it's an amazing session here because every speaker that is on this session has shown a superb amount of resiliency. Actually, what I call it an intergalactic amount of resiliency and effort here. And they are from all over the world. They're even resilient now. It's 1 a.m. somewhere in the world, and they are here. I'm looking at Elim, and she's saying, yes, I am resilient. I'm still awake at 1 a.m. in the morning here. Anna as well, she is resilient. She sent some really great questions that will come here, and then with Christelle and then Ines. But let me give them full credit here and read their titles as well, just to make sure that we do due diligence here. And Christelle Sanaa is the founder and CEO of Full Street Company, Station F. And she's part of the HEC Incubator France. I personally visit Station F. We are going to have an event there. It's incredible. I've met you there. So this is just incredible. I welcome. I'm so excited to see you here. So we're excited to come back. Please hold my coffee. I know now it's very cold, but we'll come back and we heat it up in Station F. Then we have Ines Gabaret. She's the Associate Dean of ESCA, School of Management France. They are our partners for ICSB 2021 in Paris. So this is just incredible. Ines has been putting the sessions together, and not only she's moderating, she's organizing, and now she's presenting. So we look forward to hearing Ines present. And she has done extensive research on resiliency. And Elim Chu, I met her years ago. Elim, as usual, you are leading the world here. She is the founder of IM Holding in Singapore. So Elim, it's nice to see you. I hope you're doing well. And then finally, last but not least, Anna Korpaz. She's the VP at Foster Care Foundation in Poland. Anna, it's nice to meet you as well. Right? And my name is Ayman Tarabishi. I'm the president, CEO of the International Council for Small Business. And I'm delighted to have you all here. So let's just start, first of all. Let's start with Christelle. Christelle, why don't we start with you? Introduce yourself to everybody. And if you have any slides you'd like to share, why don't we go ahead and put them up?
Okay, thank you very much for Just a second.
Okay. Sure.
Let me see. Oh, what? Sorry. Just a second. I'm trying to. What's?
Yeah.
Oh, where? Okay, so maybe I don't know why it doesn't work. So anyway, I'll send you the slide later on if you don't mind. First of all, I'd like to thank you for giving me this opportunity to be at your table and to be part of this woman batch.